There were rules. Endless, precise, beautifully inefficient rules. According to protocol 12 Gamma of the Galactic Council's Code of Encounter, any unidentified life form arriving on a neutral station must be detained, examined, and, if deemed interesting, heavily documented before being accidentally vaporized. So when the escape pod tumbled into Docking Bay 3 with all the grace of a concussed beetle, the Council did what it did best: panic politely. The pod was of unknown design, crude, patchworked, held together, seemingly, with duct tape and sheer spite. When the retrieval team peeled it open, very carefully, behind 3 layers of shielding and one intern named Plib, the occupant was discovered. Unconscious, bruised, breathing, and, most concerning of all, smiling in her sleep. Species, unknown. Origin, unclear. Intent, probably sarcasm. She was transferred immediately to Containment Bay 7, the place where dangerous things were studied and occasionally disintegrated. The scientists assembled. The security team loaded their tranquilizers, and the AI was told, firmly, to behave this time. This was, after all, a first contact situation, and no one wanted to repeat the cephalopod salsa incident. AI. Containment Bay 7 is now sealed. Biological quarantine active. Please do not lick the specimen. The door hissed shut behind them, and Durakith stepped forward, datapad in hand, and curiosity practically vibrating off his forehead ridges. Subject appears bipedal, unarmored, no visible claws or venom sacs, incredibly squishy. Fascinating. Beside him, Commander Yuln shifted uneasily, his hand resting on the sidearm he wasn't technically supposed to have in a lab. "It's smiling, Doctor." Inside the containment field, the human blinked, rubbed her temples, and spoke with the raw energy of someone who had not had coffee in 6 hours and might commit crimes. "Nah, I'm just trying not to sneeze. Your air smells like lemon and regret." There was a pause. The kind of pause where someone considers whether they're in a dream or just deeply unlucky. The station AI broke the silence with its usual bureaucratic warmth. Translation matrix fully engaged. Emotion tone, 72% sarcasm, 18% passive aggression, 10% confusion. Yuln tensed. "I knew it. It's weaponized." Durakith didn't look up from his notes. "Commander, not everything that smiles is a threat." The human raised an eyebrow. "Bold of you to assume that, but fair." A mechanical chair descended from the ceiling, landing with a pneumatic thunk. The human sat in it like she'd done this before. "Subject," Durakith said, "please state your designation." "Jess." He tapped on his datapad. "Full designation?" "Jessica Taylor Nguyen Patel. Third of her name, breaker of kettles, eater of the last donut. But most people just go with Jess." The datapad made a thoughtful beep. "Species, Homo sapiens. Origin, planet Terra. Third from Sol." Yuln shuddered. "Class 5, Death World. Atmospheric chaos, predatory wildlife, hostile temperatures, and—" He leaned closer to the datapad. "Wasps." Jess muttered. "Don't even get me started on wasps." Durakith adjusted his visor. "How did you arrive at this station?" "Routine satellite maintenance. Next thing I know, my shuttle's doing cartwheels through an asteroid field. Woke up here with a concussion, and your Siri knockoff telling me not to lick things." "This remains an important guideline," the AI chimed in helpfully. Yuln narrowed his eyes. "You carry no weapons?" "Nope, unless you count my winning personality." The scanner hummed and passed over her body. Dr. Keth frowned at the readings. Fractured and rehealed bones, scar tissue, several metallic implants. "What is—" "Appendix removal." Jess shrugged. "It's like a rite of passage. You hit your 20s and your organs start gaslighting you? Gaslighting? Yuln asked, as though preparing to write it on a warning sign. The AI responded. A primitive Earth psychological warfare tactic involving emotional manipulation, usually over household thermostats. Yuln pointed triumphantly. Definitely a weapon. Subject, Dreketh continued, undeterred. What do you require for comfort during containment? Coffee, black, and maybe a sandwich. No gluten, or dairy, or space wheat. I don't trust anything that glows and squelches. We shall prepare the nutrient paste, Yuln said darkly. That sounds horrifying. I'm in. Dreketh turned away, recording his notes aloud. Preliminary observation. Subject displays humor, resilience, and a refusal to display fear. Possible cultural trait. Or psychosis. I can still hear you, squid guy, Jess said from the chair. Noted. The AI interrupted once again. Initiating next phase of evaluation. Cultural assessment. A projector screen whirred to life in front of Jess. She leaned back, arms folded. Oh no, not the slideshow. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed ominously, like it had opinions about jazz. Jess sat up straighter as the screen flickered to life. A grainy image of Earth spun into view, blue, green, and stubborn. The AI's voice dropped into documentary mode, the kind normally reserved for nature specials and awkward school assemblies. Planet, Terra, locally designated Earth, inhabitants, Homo sapiens, behavioral profile, chaotic, loud, slightly flammable. Jess raised a hand. Rude. Noted, the AI replied, and continued without missing a beat. The dominant species, humans, are known for developing complex social structures, weaponizing their own food, and inventing over 17,000 regional variations of bread. A montage began, grainy footage of a supermarket brawl over sourdough, a street vendor shouting about naan, a child aggressively launching a baguette like a javelin. Yuln leaned in, squinting. This species fights over yeast-based goods? Jess nodded solemnly. Bread is serious business. The slideshow advanced. Images of war, rockets launching, cities sprawling under clouds of industry and hope. Humans mastered fire, then promptly used it to burn everything. They split the atom. Then they used it to threaten each other into not splitting more atoms. Dreketh scribbled in his notes. Fascinating. They discovered self-annihilation and called it balance. Jess tilted her head. To be fair, it worked. Mostly. The next slide showed humans in formal attire, shaking hands, immediately followed by one of them slipping on a banana peel. Culturally, humans exhibit extreme dichotomies, the AI intoned. Celebrations of union are often accompanied by elaborate rituals, including loud music, awkward dancing, and competitive cake slicing. That's a wedding, Jess said. We don't fully understand them either. Yuln looked horrified. They slice desserts in battle rituals? Jess nodded again. Sometimes there's a playlist. Another image flickered on screen. A human mid-scream, covered in glitter, and waving a sign that read, Aliens exist and owe me rent. This one appears frequently in surveillance data, the AI said. She is persistent. Oh yeah, Jess muttered. That's Deb. She runs a podcast. The next segment was labeled Recreational Danger. Footage showed skydiving, deep-sea diving, base jumping, and something called cheese rolling, which deeply unsettled the room. Dr. Keth frowned. They fling themselves off cliffs. For fun? Sometimes there's a trophy, Jess said. Yuln, whispering, they fear nothing. Incorrect, the AI chimed in. Common phobias include spiders, social gatherings, dying alone, dying in public, and clowns. Everyone nodded, except Jess, who shuddered at the word clowns. Then, without warning, the next image filled the screen. A crude drawing, stick figures, a smiling sun in the corner. Subject's childhood artwork recovered from debris. Jess leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Oh, come on. That's clearly a dinosaur on a skateboard. I was 6. I had vision. Yuln whispered to Draketh. It drew predators performing acrobatics. For pleasure. Apex behavior, Draketh agreed. The lights came back on. The presentation ended with a cheerful chime. End of cultural briefing. There was silence. Heavy, uneasy silence. Jess cracked her neck. So, what do I win? Draketh looked baffled. Win? Yeah, this whole slideshow had game show energy. I figured there'd be a prize. Yuln frowned deeply. This was a psychological assessment. And I passed. With style. She pointed to the chair she was still lounging in. Didn't even flinch at the cheese-rolling segment. Draketh rubbed the bridge of his nose. Commander, I believe we are dealing with a species whose primary evolutionary advantage is refusing to die out of sheer stubbornness. Jess shrugged. Sounds about right. The AI offered a gentle chime. Preparing for Phase 3. Interrogation. Jess sighed. Cool, cool. Just let me know when the snack cart comes around. There was an old saying on Earth. You catch more flies with honey. In space, the equivalent was, you catch more apex predators with polite suspicion and a vaguely glowing chair. The chair in question adjusted itself beneath Jess. The restraints engaged, not tight, just firmly judgmental. The lights dimmed again, and this time a new voice crackled through the speaker system. Deeper, more serious. Interrogator Ziln, Chief of Cognitive Integrity and Grim Vibes. Human, state your allegiance. Jess stared into the middle distance like she was calculating the exact level of sarcasm legally permissible in space. To coffee and spite. There was a pause as someone, somewhere, scribbled a note and underlined it twice. We require information on your species' military structure. Disorganized chaos, mostly yelling and spreadsheets, occasionally drones. Tactical units? We have those. They're called Karen Facebook groups. Another pause. Elaborate. Jess leaned forward slightly. You ever see a suburban woman armed with a coupon and unfulfilled rage? That's your tactical unit. Deploy 2 of those to any situation. Conflict ends in 30 minutes or less. Someone's crying. Probably management. Ziln cleared his throat. Your species survived multiple planetary crises. War, disease, climate collapse. How? Jess cracked her knuckles, thinking. Well, half optimism, half dumb luck, a little bit of duct tape, and, oh yeah, relentless sarcasm. Keeps the existential dread from settling too deep in the lungs. The chair made a slight beeping noise, possibly to indicate disagreement or judgment. Ziln continued. Is Earth united under one government? Jess snorted. You ever seen 7 billion people agree on anything? We barely agree on pizza toppings. Your planetary defense systems? Oh, we have those. Mostly designed to stop each other. Another scribble. Are you telling us your species evolved, reached orbit, and constructed mass weapons of destruction just to threaten itself? That's the human condition in a nutshell, Zilly. Innovate, escalate, regret. Ziln's voice grew sharper. Are you deliberately being unhelpful? Jess smiled, not politely. I prefer strategically vague. It's one of my people's core survival skills. That, and pretending everything's fine when it absolutely isn't. Ziln sighed, the sound of someone used to dealing with less chatty prisoners. Do you have any idea the risk you represent? Your biology is chaotic. Your psychology is volatile. Your entertainment media alone violates at least 5 treaties. Jess shrugged. We like stories, especially ones where things blow up. But the dog survives. There was silence again. Somewhere in the observation deck, Dreketh whispered, "They're story-driven carnivores. No wonder they've survived everything. They narrate their own suffering." Yuln, sounding increasingly nervous. "Is it too late to put it back in the pod?" The AI broke in cheerfully. "Specimen cannot be relaunched. The pod was partially digested by the station's janitorial fungus." Jess blinked. "Sorry, your what?" The AI replied with enthusiasm. "Station maintenance is semi-organic, fungus-based, efficient, slightly musical." A low hum began somewhere in the walls. Jess sat very still. "Okay, I'm adding singing mold to the list of things I'm choosing not to deal with today." Ziln resumed. "One final question, human. What is your purpose?" Jess looked him dead in the speaker. "To keep going, no matter what. Even when everything's falling apart and the air smells weird, we laugh, we swear, we get up, we try again. That's it. That's the whole deal." Another long silence. Ziln didn't speak this time. Just disconnected. Dreketh's voice, quiet but awed, echoed over the comms. "They persist. Not because they're the strongest, or the smartest, but because they just refuse to stop." Yuln muttered, "Terrifying." It began with flickering lights and a suspicious number of urgent meetings. Someone was whispering. Someone else was crying. Someone else had locked themselves in the AI maintenance closet and was pretending to be a potted plant. Jess sat in her containment chair, chewing what may have been space gum, or possibly a calcium packet, and watching the panic unfold like it was a mid-tier soap opera. The AI chimed in. "Containment status temporarily downgraded to mild inconvenience." Dreketh appeared at the door, holding a tablet with the expression of a man whose belief in the system had just been set on fire, then peed on by bureaucracy. "We have reviewed the capture logs." Jess raised an eyebrow. "Uh-huh." "It appears there was an error. You were not the intended subject." "I knew that pod was parked illegally." He cleared his throat. "We were supposed to intercept Earth's designated first contact delegate, diplomatic envoy, PhD's special hat. And instead, you got me." "A barista," Dreketh confirmed, with visible psychic bruising, with no formal training, credentials, or measurable decorum. Jess popped her gum. "I do make a mean cortado." Yuln entered behind him, visibly sweating. "We must rectify this. Immediately. We must correct the file, erase the interview logs, and—" The AI cut in cheerfully. "Already uploaded to the Galactic Core Archive. View count, 14 million and rising. Comments include, 10 out of 10, would not invade, and she scares me, but I love her." Jess leaned back in the chair, victorious. "That's my fan base." Dr. Keth blinked. "We can't delete the footage?" "Correct. Also, someone made it into a remix. It slaps." Over the intercom, a distorted music loop played Jess's earlier quote, "To coffee," and spite. Auto-tuned, backed by drums. Yuln put his head in his hands. "This will spark diplomatic chaos, fear, uncertainty. An entire sector might cancel trade routes." Jess shrugged. "So what you're saying is, I'm too big to fail?" They looked at her, then at each other. Then they did what all great bureaucrats do when confronted with the choice between admitting fault or burying it under a new policy. They blinked slowly and updated the records. "Congratulations," said Dodderketh flatly. "You are now the official first contact representative for humanity." "Cool. Do I get, like, a badge?" "You get a gift basket." "I'll take it." The basket was wheeled in. Inside, a selection of Alien Jerky 1 gelatin cube with ambiguous emotions and a bumper sticker that read, "My species survived first contact, and all I got was this lousy interstellar reputation." Jess held it up with pride. "This is going on my fridge." The lights dimmed again. The AI began prepping the pod bay. "Return shuttle launching in 5 minutes. Snacks provided. Seat warmer optional." Jess stood, stretched, and cracked her neck. "You know, not a bad Tuesday." Yuln stepped forward cautiously. "Will you tell your people about us?" Jess grinned. "Absolutely. Right after I upload the remix." As the doors closed behind her, a low hum filled the corridor. And across the galaxy, ambassadors, politicians, warlords, and peacekeepers began urgently revising their Earth contingency plans. Humanity had arrived, or at least, Jess had, and she brought sarcasm, jazz hands, and passive-aggressive snack preferences.